Welcome to Frontline Focus. Here's what's happening around the world. Kursk movements. Ukraine expands in Kursk despite Russian resistance. Toropets blast. Missile storage explosion in Russia prompts safety debates. Middle East tensions. Explosions in Lebanon raise fears of conflict with Israel. Crimea initiative. Poland proposes a UN mandate for a fair Crimea referendum. NATO responds. Stoltenberg dismisses Putin's threats, stresses NATO's strength. Stay tuned for detailed coverage. The armed forces of Ukraine have expanded their foothold in the Kursk region and are making further advances. According to the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, analysts at the ISW note that geolocated footage indicates Ukrainian troops have moved east of Krasnoktyabrsky, located southwest of Kiriniovo. Meanwhile, Russian forces have also made slight advances in the region, moving eastward through two wooded areas southeast of Kiriniovo, as well as to the south of Obukovka. Crimea and Kursk region. The military situation around Crimea remains tense as a small group of Russian forces finds itself encircled by Ukrainian troops who maintain fire control over the area. Despite occasional attempts by Russian armored groups to resupply this contingent with food, ammunition, and water, efforts to evacuate the wounded and deceased have not succeeded. Ukrainian forces are not focusing on a full-scale sweep of Crimea due to limited resources, yet they effectively inhibit Russian maneuvers. In the Kursk region, Ukrainian forces have made significant advances. The Ukrainian troops successfully thwarted Russian counteroffensive maneuvers and have managed to push deeper into the region, heading towards Arwylske. With strategic movements from the settlement of Veseloy towards Glushkovo, Ukrainian forces are actively engaging in intense battles to expand their reach. Their objectives are to press forward from previously secured positions to further strengthen their hold and stretch Russian defenses. Russian counteroffensive. Attempts by Russian forces to mount a counteroffensive have thus far been unsuccessful. Efforts to regain lost ground and push Ukrainian forces back have not yielded the desired outcomes for the Russian military. The Russian troops have faced considerable resistance and incurred significant losses, which forced them to retreat to their initial lines. Notably, the Russian 1st Paratrooper Regiment, which aimed to advance near Kulbakino, was met with decisive Ukrainian resistance. Consequently, the regiment suffered heavy casualties and was compelled to withdraw. The failure of this counteroffensive has not only limited Russian strategic options, but has also exacerbated their operational difficulties in the region. Russian troops advanced in Zalaznoy in the Toretsk direction and near Ukrainsk in Kurakovsky. Russian troops also advanced near the villages of Peskanoy in the Kharkov region and Marfapol in Zaporizhzhia. Analysts also recorded the advance of Russian forces near Obukovka in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation. RI Novosti has shown the streets of Toropets in the Tver region following yesterday's explosion at a missile storage facility. According to the news agency, windows throughout the city have been shattered, and the smell of smoke still lingers. Latest reports indicate that 13 people have been hospitalized with moderate injuries as a result of the explosion. There have been no official reports of fatalities. Yesterday, propagandist Anastasia Kashavarova claimed there were dozens of deceased soldiers, but today she retracted her statement saying, "My reliable sources informed me that the entire staff managed to take cover." Additionally, the Russian Orthodox Church commented on the explosion in the city, reporting that 13 churches in Toropets were damaged, with windows and doors being blown out. According to Ukrainian media, over 100 drones were allegedly used in the attack on the missile storage in Toropets. It is claimed that the warehouse reportedly contained missiles for Grad systems, S-300 air defense systems, and Iskander missiles. Explosive devices spark fears of Israel-Lebanon conflict escalation. A series of explosions involving handheld radios rocked southern Lebanon on Wednesday, marking the deadliest day since the conflict between Hezbollah and Israel intensified nearly a year ago. These blasts follow a similar incident with Hezbollah pagers on Tuesday, resulting in a total of over 30 fatalities and thousands of injuries, as reported by Lebanon's health ministry. The attacks have been linked to Israel's Mossad, although Israeli officials have not commented. The explosions have heightened tensions, raising concerns of a broader regional war involving Israel and Hezbollah, Iran's powerful proxy in the Middle East. Jordan's foreign minister accused Israel of escalating tensions, while the U.S. engaged in diplomacy to prevent the conflict from widening. Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant announced the moving of military resources to its northern border with Lebanon, emphasizing a strategic shift from Gaza. Hezbollah has vowed retaliation, firing rockets at Israeli positions, which Israel confirmed did not result in damage or casualties. The conflict has prompted fears of wider Middle Eastern unrest, complicating efforts by international mediators to negotiate a ceasefire in Gaza. Meanwhile, Japan's ICOM is investigating the use of its radios in the attack, facing challenges in confirming shipment details due to potential counterfeit products. Polish Foreign Minister Sikorski called for Crimea to be placed under the UN mandate and to hold a fair referendum there. Sikorski said that if the Ukrainians started to retake Crimea, Putin would not dare to start fighting for Donbass. The Polish foreign minister said that the peninsula could be placed under the UN mandate with a mission to prepare the referendum. Crimea is symbolically important for Russia, and especially for Putin, but strategically important for Ukraine. So I don't see how they can reach an agreement without demilitarizing Crimea. We could put it under a UN mandate with a mission to prepare a fair referendum after verifying who the legal residents are and things like that. And we could postpone it for 20 years, Sikorski said at the Yes meeting in Kiev. Sikorski believes that an agreement between the sides is possible only if Crimea is demilitarized, but if both countries want, a solution could be found here. NATO chief undeterred by Putin's warnings on Ukraine's long-range strikes. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg remains unconvinced by Russian President Vladimir Putin's threats regarding Ukraine's potential for launching long-range missile strikes into Russia. In an interview with The Times, Stoltenberg expressed skepticism over Putin's so-called red lines, suggesting they are bluffs that won't lead to direct NATO involvement. Stoltenberg highlighted that North Korea and Iran supply Russia with military support, including missiles and drones, without becoming parties to the conflict, paralleling NATO's stance. He emphasized that previous red lines declared by Putin have failed to escalate into a NATO confrontation, as the Russian leader recognizes NATO's power as the world's strongest military alliance. Stoltenberg also mentioned the impossibility of winning a nuclear war, a point NATO has clearly communicated to Russia. The decision to permit Ukraine to conduct long-range attacks on Russian territory will ultimately rest with individual NATO allies. Stoltenberg underlined the inherent risks in warfare, stressing that a Russian victory in Ukraine poses the greatest threat to European security. Ukraine is eager to deploy long-range missiles against Russian air bases and military installations used in attacks on Ukrainian cities. Despite Putin's threats, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha advocates for increased Allied support, viewing Putin's warnings as mere rhetoric.